at the end of the day, success is great, but what are you going to do with that platform? And I just want to encourage everybody that's listening, even if it's one person that you impact in this world, you made the world a better place, and just focus on that.
You teach people how to do this themselves so they can do it themselves.
Like I said, you can turn a lot of those so-called negatives into positives.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. This show is created to help businesses start or grow the real estate investing business by bringing you guests that can share their journey with you so you can learn from not only their successes, but more importantly, their failures. I want to encourage anybody to realize, or everybody to realize, that there's unlimited potential and that you can get there faster by working smarter. So hopefully this conversation will prove to you that and help you to work smarter. So remember, when you want to get somewhere or get something done, don't ask, how can I get there? But more importantly, who can get me there? So I'm Tony Javier, 20-year real estate investor. And with me here today is Terrence Murphy. Terrence, what's up, man?
How you doing, man? Looking forward to being on the show, and congrats on all your success and everything you've done. And heck, I'm already over here taking notes. So I'm excited to be here and just have a good conversation for your audience and try to encourage some people and give them some tools going forward.
Sounds amazing, man. Excited to have you. You're our second former NFL player to be on the show. So you were drafted in 2005. I'll let you tell that story. You were roommates and friends with Aaron Rodgers and have taken that success, which I feel like a lot of athletes who perform at a high level are good at taking that and transitioning that into business, which is super cool. So now I think you're a part of own or operate or invest in 50 companies, and looking like you're wanting to take that to a new level. You're doing some coaching. You're doing a lot of cool things in not only the real estate game, but just in business in general. So I'm looking forward to conversation. So first of all, tell people who you are and kind of your backstory and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, man. So born and raised in East Texas. That's a rural area, rural country. Grew up with a single mom, and I was the baby of a lot of older brothers. So I got, they call it, something rolls downhill. That was me. I always had to deal with all of that. But it made me tough. And I'm fearless. I've always been fearless. Took that mentality, and ended up having about 20 D1 scholarships athletically. And then I had about 3 to 5 academic full rides to great universities like UNC, but chose to come to Texas A&M, play football there, had a really good career. 2-time team captain, 2-time all-conference, 3-time academic, broke a lot of records and got drafted in the second round by the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers draft class. Got injured my rookie year. But like I said, I knew I had a brain. I was like, all right, I can go do something else. And then I just asked God to give me something I can be passionate about. He showed me real estate. And I just started reading books and started self-educating on financial literacy. And I just took off on that journey. And that's how I got into real estate.
Cool, man. I forgot to mention to you, Tyler, Texas is where you're from, right?
Yes, sir.
I actually run TV commercials in Tyler, Texas. We do deals in Tyler, Texas. So I'll have to talk about that off camera with you.
Oh,
pretty interesting. So that's amazing. I guess the work ethic and what you did on the field, you were able to take into real estate, right? So, some people, look, you go, man, you got drafted and, now you've got 50 companies under your belt. And a lot of people go, man, this guy hasn't made, it was probably super easy for him, right? So, talk about what it took to get there. What are some big lessons that you learned along the way that kind of got you from, and I'm sure there was some mental, like, man, I've got to start all over. Obviously you say you're fearless, but there's got to be some kind of like mental shift of like, man, this is really tough trying to figure out what I'm going to do. But tell us kind of the lessons you learned along the way and what got you to, having to quit one career and succeed in another.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I say fearless in a way to connect with the audience, because I'm fearless because of all the things I've been through, and when you've been through so much, a lot of my story, my testimony, it's like, it didn't come easy for sure. Even going into my senior year, my team we were really good in football, but we brought in a new superintendent to kind of clean up the drugs and the guns of my school. And a lot of the best athletes didn't pass. So they didn't play. And before, we had a history of making sure they passed so that they could play. So going into my senior year, man, we were 0-10 my sophomore year and 1-9 my junior year. So we were 1-19 going into my senior year. We hadn't signed a D1 recruit in 10 years. And I'm telling people I'm going to go to college and play college football. They're like, dude, we haven't signed a D1 recruit in 10 years and we're 1-19. So that just gives you a picture of the uphill battle that I had. I had to do something that hadn't been done in 10 years, and then going 1-19, it doesn't look like no one's going to break that cycle, right? But then just learning to grind, and the one mentality that I tell people is the one brick mentality. focusing on just getting the one brick down, and with the right fundamentals, the right mindset, and then you can build that foundation on top of that brick. So for me, people see the NFL, but they don't realize I got drafted at 22. Well, I've been telling people I was going to go to the NFL since I was 5. So that's a 17-year journey. Lots of games, lots of practices, lots of injuries, lots of good games, bad games, ups and downs that we go through. And that's what entrepreneurship is. Right? You jump off on this journey, you're going to start flipping homes, building houses, selling real estate, and you cannot play this game as a sprint. You got to play it as a marathon. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I've taken from being an athlete and taking 17 years to achieve that dream of making it to the NFL.
Yeah, awesome. So what are some things that you have, like philosophies or strategies or methodologies you put in your businesses that you feel like have had the most impact on you to kind of get where you are today?
I would say a couple of things. One, I don't hire anybody at any of my companies without a personality profile.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to take a DISC test and go through a questionnaire, because people are really good at masquerading as one person, and then when you hire them, they're a totally different person. And it's not even their fault. Like, what I learned about personalities is there's 2 things about the DISC profile. There's an adaptive personality and a natural personality. So you, Tony, have an adaptive personality and a natural personality. What happens is, though, over time, is when you get exhausted, tired, overwhelmed, or comfortable, which is what happens to each employee after 90 days, then you gravitate towards your natural state. So really understanding how you're really wired, because I don't care how hard I want to do it. Over time, I don't want to sit down and do paperwork. So don't have me in an administrative transaction coordinator, legal type role, because I'm just not going to do a repeatable task. I may be the best employee you've ever hired, but if you have me in the wrong seat, you would never know that. So that's probably one of the most important things I've learned. If you're going to lead people, is you got to put them in the right seat. 2 more things. The next thing is just time blocking, just managing your time, blocking it out in 15, 30, and hour windows. And when you really get efficient at managing your time, that'll help you really become an amazing entrepreneur, real estate professional, or whatever. And I'd say the third one is sales. You got to always be able to sell, no matter what you do. In any industry, if you can sell, you'll always eat.
Yep, I agree with all those DISC profiles. We do that with all of our people. I think anytime that I've gone outside of the DISC where I'm like, I want a high I for sales, but someone, that's a high I wants to be administrative person, like it's never worked out, right? Anytime I've gone against the grain with DISC or any other behavior profile, it's always kind of backfired. So totally agree with that one. Time blocking, that's one of my favorite things. Like, I'm very big on self-education for myself, but I recently started actually putting that in place for my team. So I actually do productivity training once a month with my people. And that's probably the biggest thing that I push on them, time blocking. Like, if you have something super important you need to do, time block it, especially if it's like something every week that you need to do. Like for me, I time block financials every week to like just sit down and dive into them. And if I don't time block that, then it's less likely to happen. So totally agree with that one. And, we run, as I mentioned to you, TV commercials throughout the country with real estate investors, and we also run them for ourselves. And that's the biggest thing that makes a really good campaign compared to a not a very good campaign, is just the sales process and being able to sell. So totally agree with all 3 of those.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So cool, man. So who would you say has had the biggest influence on you? Is there anybody, like a book, like for me, Tony Robbins is a big one. Are there some people that have really motivated you and kind of been the catalyst behind kind of pushing you forward in different things?
Yeah, it's cool. I actually just spoke at the Bill conference in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and me and Tony Robbins were on the same stage. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Love it.
6,000 or something agents there. And so it was cool to meet him, his son, and as a part of our tribe. And so it was cool to share the stage with Tony Robbins. But yeah, what I would say, as you think through that thought process, like, I don't have a direct mentor. And so for a lot of people, I feel like they use that as a crutch. And growing up without a dad, growing up with a single mom, growing up with just certain things that I didn't have, I've learned to reverse that mindset and not use it as an excuse on why I can't do something. So 2 things I tell people is, it's great to have a mentor, but if you don't, you can still achieve everything you want to achieve with or without that person. Who's had the biggest impact on me is Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki changed my life. I read the book, Who Took My Money? when I was 23 years old, and understanding that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was the first time somebody broke it down in those terms, going against everything we were taught, right? Like save, put money in the bank, invest in a 401k. And he was just crushing that thought process. And I've always been kind of an outside the box thinker. So I just love that. And he's like, I love his books. I love what he's done. And he set me on this path of real estate entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Yeah, he's had an effect on a lot of people because he's one of the biggest ones back in the day teaching the real estate and, like you said, framing in a way that people understand it, right? The cash flow quadrant, passive income, which actually was one of the things that you mentioned before we started, was passive income. So 50 companies. So break that down a little bit. So I told you right before we started, I've got 5 companies that I started from the ground up. My evolution is, man, I'm just going to start buying companies. You mentioned a book, Buy Then Build, which is something I'm gonna have to check out, which talks about buying companies and building it rather than starting it from scratch. So tell us how that came about, the 50 companies, the ones that you're actively involved in, the ones that you invest in. For me, mine are real estate based and I have different reasons behind mine. Tell us about your 50 companies and how you are a part of those.
Yeah. I think once again, it feels intimidating to hear 50 companies, or it feels intimidating to hear that Tony did this and Terrence did that. I just want to encourage the audience, like, you got to start somewhere. I didn't start with thinking I would own and be a part of 50 companies. It started with, let's just get one off the ground, right? And so as I built that one company, which was the first company, was an investment company doing student housing and rezoning, redevelopment around College Station. Because, Texas A&M is I think it's the biggest university in America now. Not only in size, it's 5,200 acres, but in enrollment, I think we're at 75,000 students. So when you got a university sitting in the middle of town that big, I'm like, all right, well, I can't go wrong. Let me just start buying up everything in a 1 mile radius of campus. And it was one of the smartest things I've done. People thought I was crazy back then buying it because it was a lot of junk, but now it's appreciated out of the sky. The point is, I started with that one company, and then I came across a concept called intentional congruency. Intentional congruency. There's a Japanese model that I never can pronounce right, so I'm not going to even butcher it. But there's a Japanese model that a lot of the companies in Japan started, which was intentional congruency. And as I started studying that model, it made so much sense. Like, oh, it's spiderwebbing, right? So you create this one company, and then you use the influence of that company, and you spiderweb off companies that feed from that company. And that's what I did. So it was all real estate centric. And then I started starting companies that fed off this company. So think about it. On a real estate transaction, there's 20 to 25 companies that make money. You close a deal, the brokers get paid. There's 2 real estate brokers get paid. There's a title company, mortgage, insurance, home warranty, surveying, whatever. So that's what I started doing.
Cool. Intentional. Yep. I just looked it up. I'm gonna have to dive into that a little bit more. But basically, yeah, it's like leveraging what you've already done to do other things. So like I mentioned, we do TV commercials around the country. We're actually now adding radio to it, and we're gonna add billboards to it. So yeah, everything we do kind of ties together. So I understand the concept. So tell us more about the companies. Are they all real estate based? I think I read somewhere that you have some franchises as well, if I'm not mistaken, or is that maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but tell us how you decide whether you want to be a part of a company or not.
Yeah. So as I started these companies, right? So I went and had a development company. Then I started a brokerage. Then from the brokerage, I got an insurance. From the insurance, I got a home building company. And then now I have a multifamily development syndication company. So you just kind of keep growing. Well, the first thing is I look at, does it fit in my model, right? Can I feed it? Can I influence it? Can I add value to it? Because if I can't feed it, influence it, and add value to it, I don't invest in it. The other way I look at a company is, if I invest in it, is it going to change the world? If it's not going to make an impact, if it's not going to make something more efficient, easier for us, then I don't invest in it. Like, there's a company now that I invested in, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but how Uber takes us on these trips, but they're short, like here to there. Well, this company does Uber, but long drives, right? So 2-hour drives, 1-hour drives, that kind of stuff. So to me, like, those are the kind of companies I'm looking, if it's, prop tech, fintech, real estate technology, anything like that I like, kind of that stays in that realm of what I'm already doing.
Yeah. Are you of the mindset? So I had someone on the show, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. He sold a company for $600 million. And his thing was, if you can find a tech company or tech companies, invest in them, that 1 out of probably 10 might have been 1 out of 20. I think he said 1 out of 10 is most likely, as long as you do your due diligence, it's probably going to hit it big. So for him, it's like playing, not roulette, but it's like, he's like, if I can invest in 20 companies, there's a good chance 1 or 2 are going to be massive, that even if the other 18 or 19 fail, that it's still going to be a good return. I don't know if you have that philosophy too, or if you're a little bit more like dialed into like, I know that this not that it's gonna work for sure, but you're a little bit more dialed in and kind of have a better feel that they're going to work, or if you kind of shoot for the or swing for the fences a little bit and kind of know that some of the deals that you do are going to be riskier, but potential bigger.
No, I would say no. So what I do is I look at companies like I just bought an insurance company. It's 50-year-old insurance company, right? I'm in my 30s. It's older than me. Well, I know it's not going anywhere. It's been here well before me, probably be here after I go, right? And so I bought that company. I can look at the historic value. I can look at the P&Ls. I can look at the revenue multiples, and I can track that. So like that to me is like essential businesses, right? Something that services. So service business, essential businesses, I love buying those, right? Plumbing companies, insurance, things that aren't going anywhere. No matter what happens with technology, you need a plumbing company. You need insurance, right? So those are the kind of companies that I like folding into my main version. If I'm investing in more of a speculative company, then it's technology and it's still kind of in that fold where I need to understand it, right? Like if somebody comes to me like, I got a pacemaker company, we're making hearts and we're doing this. And it's like, it's 50X. I'm like, I'm not interested because I don't know anything about that, right? I just stay within my lane, no matter what it is. And then once again, can I influence it? Can I feed it? Am I interested in it? And then at some point, will it change the world? And that's really what I try to follow.
So do all of your companies, you said influence, and do all of your companies you have some kind of influence on, or there's some that are just totally passive?
Some are totally passive, but most of in my 20 companies, touching all of those in some way, shape, form, or fashion. In the 30 that I'm invested in, there's some that I just invested in, maybe meet quarterly or every 6 months as an advisor on the board or something like that. And I'm very passive in those.
So tell us about your team. So someone, 50 companies, again, that's probably intimidating for a lot of people. It's like, how do you manage, keep track of all 50 companies? What does your core team look like? Do you have just a few people that are on your core team that help with those businesses? Is it a bigger team, bigger spider web? Kind of dive into that a little bit of how you can manage that.
Yeah, so right now we got about 400 people that work for us directly or indirectly. What we focused on, and that's 1099 type people like real estate agents, independent contract type people. We try to focus on our leaders. I read a book, I guess it was 5 years ago, Gino Wickman, Traction. Mm-hmm. That book changed my life, man. It confirmed everything I knew I was. I just wasn't in writing. Being a visionary, looking for those integrators. So now my main focus is I'm just looking, there it is. I'm just looking for integrators. And then I try to keep creating the vision because I know my value is being creative and very creative. Like even what I design on my home, stuff like that. So if I can just stay in that creative space and really try to get out of the day-to-day, that's what I'm focused on. So I kind of in that visionary role, and then we really look at we call it our process roadmaps, where we're just trying to create these repeatable processes, right? Like Starbucks, right? You look at what he does. When you go to Starbucks in New York or in LA, you're going to get a similar experience as a customer. And that's what we're trying to create throughout our businesses. So I have a leadership team. It's all ladies. I have no men on my leadership team. I'm the only guy. And those women, without them, one's my wife. And then the other is just other people that have been with us 8, 10 years, 12 years. I wouldn't be where I'm at as an entrepreneur without them.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So integrator, yeah, that's super important. When I understood that and really put that into place, that, for me, for many years, like I wanted to be the integrator in everything. It's like, oh, I've got this idea. Let me figure out how to do it. Got this idea. Let me dive. And it's like, no, if you have something you want to get done and you want to do things at a higher level, you have to take your ideas and figure out who can help you push that forward way faster and way better than you can. Because a lot of people say, man, if I need something done, I'm just going to do it myself to make sure it's done right. To me, I have the opposite philosophy. If I want to make sure something's done, I need to find somebody else to make sure that it's done right and it's actually done. Because you and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are built alike, where they have these great visions, they have these things that they want to do. It's just they try and take too much on. They work 80 hours a week, and then they don't have enough time for the creative side. They don't have enough time to work on the business and strategize and look at, can I buy other companies? Can I start other companies? Can I do other things? And I think a lot of people get bogged down in that. Sounds like you and I have some similar philosophies in many different ways. So yeah, congrats on your success, man. A lot of good stuff here. We could go in a lot of different directions. Is there anything else that I guess you can share? Is there something, actually, let me ask you this question. Is there something that has happened to you that at the time felt like one of the worst things or worst times of your life that if you look back, ended up being one of the best because it turned into something really great?
Yeah, I'd say two things. One was my injury, with the Green Bay Packers. I was at the top of the world as an athlete. Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and These guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. I was playing against Derrick Brooks and Steve Smith, which are first ballot Hall of Famers. I was there. And I wasn't just there, I was succeeding. I was doing well. But that injury, getting paralyzed on Monday Night Football and transitioning and really just going through the neck surgeries and stuff, it was life-changing. But I look back and I don't believe that I would be where I'm at with the financial literacy, the real estate, my wife, my kids, and everything that I've tried to build over the last 15 years. I don't think I'd be where I'm at if I would have been still playing in the NFL. The other one was, I bought my first house at 22, and just that experience with my realtor and this how it was all handled, it taught me a lot. And so when I became a real estate professional, I never wanted somebody to feel like I felt in that experience. And so customer service and education and making sure that my clients and my real estate agents across the nation understand what they're doing and be competent is very important to me. So that really made an impact on me.
Cool. Awesome, man. So you do some other stuff like coaching and things like that. Where can people find you if they want to learn a little bit more about you or get in contact with you if they like?
Yeah, so I think there's 3 ways. I got to do a better job on my YouTube channel. I haven't done a good job of that, but I have a podcast that I started about 16, 17 months ago. We hit 100,000 downloads in the first 12 months, and it's all organic. It's doing really well. It's just Real Estate Entrepreneur with Terrence Murphy. And then obviously my Instagram is just Terrence Realtor. So just TERRENCE Realtor. And then just check out my enterprise site, terrencemurphy.com. If you click on my coaching tab, I have 3 paths that I break down to teach people not only how to create more in sales, how to invest, and then how to buy businesses. I teach people how to buy other affiliated businesses.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate it. I think last question I may think of something else here, but what is next for you? So, you've been in the NFL, you've created these companies. Is there like a goal in your mind? I think you actually mentioned it before we hit play here. What is your big goal? What is the thing that you're like really looking forward to accomplishing, or, what is that next big thing for you?
I would say for me personally, I'm going to semi-retire at 40 and get down to 3 days a week. Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. I'm going to take off Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm going to take off Saturday, Sunday. And just focus on my time, be with my kids, be with my wife, focus on my health. Mental health isn't talked about enough until you hit a wall and you realize, wow, I got to go meditate. I got to go learn some things because I got a lot on my plate and I'm not coping with it well. And I learned that as being an athlete because there's so much on us. And then now as an entrepreneur. So I would say that. So just semi-retiring. And then my goal is to have 1,500 companies or revenue streams.
Awesome, man. 1,500. That's crazy. I'm sure you can get there. And then actually spin-off question from what your answer there. Get to 3 days a week. So I'm about 4 days a week. That 5th day, I kind of work off and on a little bit. And I'm kind of the same way. I don't want to figure out how to grow something big, but also end up taking more time off. I usually work less than 40 hours a week. How many hours do you work a week right now?
Man, I'm probably at about, I'd say 30 to 40 hours, because in those days that I'm working. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I had a townhome project I needed to get done and my super dropped the ball. I was working 80 hours a week just out there pushing to get it done. Mm-hmm. But on the usual, I'm probably 40 hours a week on 4 days. 40 hours a week, 4 days. I'm grinding on those days I'm working. But when I'm off, I'm off. Don't call me. Don't email me. Nothing's an emergency. If it is, call somebody on my team and they'll take care of you.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, hey, it was a pleasure meeting you. We have a lot of things in common. I didn't quite make it to the NFL, but I played a little college football and have been an athlete all my life. A lot of the philosophies here that you shared, we have in common as well. So it's kind of good connecting on that end. So congrats on the success. I hope that the listeners heard what it creates to take success. It's not only just drive, but it's also working smarter. It's finding integrators. It's multiple streams of income. I think people don't understand that when they start something, that's usually not the end, right? Like for me, when I started real estate investing, I was like, I'm going to be a real estate investor forever. Then I'm like, no, I don't want to be a real estate investor forever. And then I, start other things, and the things that are outside of real estate got me to a certain point, but there are other companies that I feel like have made me more fulfilled and made much more of an impact than just real estate investing alone. So
that's
awesome, Terrence. Appreciate your time, man. Any last thoughts before we hop off here?
No, I would just say none of this is going with us, right? No matter if you achieve this or achieve that, it's not going with you. So really the last thing I would say is what's going to be your legacy? So like I started a nonprofit where I focus on underprivileged kids, teaching them. I use football as the bait, but it's football, finance, and faith. So we're literally taking 5 to 18-year-old kids in underprivileged communities. We're talking to them about financial literacy. We're talking to them about faith, and we're just trying to pour back and give back. So at the end of the day, success is great, but what are you going to do with that platform? And I just want to encourage everybody that's listening, even if it's one person that you impact in this world, you made the world a better place, and just focus on that.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Love that philosophy too. So thanks again for your time. Hopefully you guys reach out to Terrence, and look forward to connecting again offline. Terrence, congrats on the success again, and look forward to potentially doing some stuff with you in the future.
Thank you, brother.
All right. See you, man.
Yes, sir.